Bibliography. Abel von Lilienberg Matthias. Metamorphosis Telly Judiciarii des Ist, Seltsame Jerichs Handel, etc. 8th ed., Nuremberg 1712. 1st ed., 1667. The funny incidents narrated in this work are cited as queer judicial procedures in Jo. Widenery Apophthegmata, Part 3, Number 69. Abel was evidently a great humorist and must have been a jolly member of the Hochlabel, Fruchtbringend Gesellschaft, to which he belonged. Adosio Carlo di Besti Delinquenti. Napoli, 1892. Agnel Émile, Curiosités judiciaires et historiques du Moyen Age. Paris, 1858. Only Part 1. Published. Amira Karl von Thierstrafen und Thierprozess. Innsbruck, 1891. Printed originally in Mitteilungen des Instituts für Österreichische Geschichtsforschung, Roman 12, pp. 546-601. Angelis Francisco Giuseppe de Delictis et Ponies, Opera Omnia, Volume I, p. 76. Napoli, 1783. Anzeiger für Kunde der Deutschen Vorzeit, Roman 27. April, No. 4, p. 102, Nuremberg, 1880. Aquinas Thomas, C. Thomas. Arbois de Jubainville, H.D., Les Excommunications d'Animox, Art in Revue des Questions Historiques, v. pp. 275-80. Paris, 1868. Eralt Pierre, Des procès faits au cadavre, aux senders à la mémoire, aux bests brutes, aux choses inanimes et aux contumex. Angers, Small 4 1591. This work is opposed to such prosecutions and is reprinted as an appendix to the same author's L'ordre formalité et instruction judiciaire, etc. Paris, 1598, 1604, 1610. Lyon, 1642. For an account of Pierre Hérault see Eloge de Pierre, Hérault prononcé devant le cour réal d'Angers, à l'audience solennelle de rentrée le 6 November, 1844, passe M. Félix Belloc, avocat général. Aspilcueta Martin, Opera, 3 vols, Fall, Lyon 1589, 6 vols, 4 Ven, 1601, 2, 5 vols, Call 1616. In his Conciliarum lib v Descent, excom. Consul. 52, he criticizes the views of Chassenée. The author is commonly known as Dr. Navarre. Ber A. der Verbrecher and Anthropologischer Beziehung, Leipzig, 1893. Bailey Gaspard, Discours des Sorciers. Traité des Monetoirs, avec un plaidoyer contre les insectes. Lyon, 1668. This work contains a full account of the method of procedure in the penal prosecution of animals. Beaumanoir Philippe de Les Coutumes de Beauvaisis, Paris, 1690, new edition by Leconte Bugnot, 1842. Benedictus Guillielmus Tractatus Criminalis, Lugduni, 1562. Benedict M., Anatomisch Studien in Verbrecher Gehirnen. Wien, 1879, translated into English. New York, 1881. Barriat Saint Prix, Rapport et recherches sur les procès et jugements relatives aux animaux, in Mémoires de la Société Réale des Antiquaires de France. Tome Roman 8, pp. 403-450. Paris, 1827. Bischoff Theodore L.W., des Herrnjuick des Menschen, Ein Studie, Bonn 1880. Bauerius, Decisions ori Parlamenti Bertigalensis, Dec. 316, Nos. 346, Lyon 1620. Boniface H. Recueil de Rares Notables, Liv. Roman 4. Traité des Matières Criminelles, p. 31. Paris, 1785. Bouchel Laurent, La Bibliothèque au Thresser du Droit François. Art Bisdale, Paris, 1615. New and enlarged edition, 3 tom, Paris, 1671. Baugint Pierre G. H., Amusement philosophique sur la langue des bestes, Paris, 1739. Published anonymously, but written by the Jesuit Pierre Baugint. Bouthers A. Coutumes locales, Damiens IPP, 354-358, 1845. Bregenzer, Ignaz, Theorethic. Darstellung der Sittlichen und Rechtlichen Beziehungen zwischen Mensch und Tier, Bamberg, 1894. Brillen P.J., Dictionnaire des Arrêts, Art, Beitel, Paris, 1711. Brunner H., Über Absichtlos Missethaten im Altdeutschen Strafrecht, Sitzungsbericht der Berliner Akademie, Roman 35, 1890 pp. 830-4839. Buchner August, Miscellanea Curiosa, 1686. Canert Bijdragen tot de Kennis van het oud strafrecht in Vlaanderen, 3rd, ed. Gent, 1835. Karpzov Benedict, Practica Nova Rerum Criminalium, Wittenberg, 1635, see especially cap, de crimine parasitii. Chassenée, Bartholomew, Concilium Primum, quod tractatus juridicii potest propter multiplicem et recondidem doctrinam, ubi luculanter et accurate tractator quistio illa, de excommunication animalium insectorum. 1531-1511, 1588. Chassenée was afterwards first president of the Parlement de Provence, a position corresponding to Chief Justice. Chourier Nicolas, Histoire générale de Dauphiné, 2 tom, Roman 2, p. 712, Valence 1778. La jurisprudence du jurisconsult Guy Pape dans CES decisions. Avec plusieurs remarques importantes par MCN, C, etc. liv, Roman 4, sect, 8 art 14, 1769. Clarus Julius, Opera Omnia. Sive Practica Civilis ac Criminalis, etc., 1637. Crolanza, Storia del Contado di Chiavenna, pp. 440-5899. Damhouder Jodocus, Rerum Criminalium Praxis, Antwerp, 1562. Desnoyers, J., Recherches sur la caudum d'exerciser et d'excommunier les insectes et autres animaux nuisibles à l'agriculture. Paris, 1853. Originally published in Bulletin du Comité historique des monuments écrits de l'histoire de la France. De seix et l'excommunication des glaciers, Revue des traditions populaires, Volume V 1890. Derpleri Jacobi. Theatrum Ponarum, Supplicium et Executionem Criminalium, oder Schauplatz derer Lebens und Lebensstrafen, etc. Sonderschossen, Anno MDCXCI. Doulora J.H., Histoire physique civile et morale de Paris, 7th ed., Roman 3 p. 298-308, Paris, 1856. Dumeral H., Les Animaux et les Lois pp. 613, Paris, 1880. Duret Jean, Traité des peines et amends tant pour les matières criminelles que civiles, Lyon, 1573, 1603, 1610. Evelyn Jacques, Traité des excommunications et monitoires, Chapter 39, Volume Roman 2, pp. 436-449, Rouen, 1712. Ferry, Enrico, I nuovi orizzonti del diritto e della procedura penale. Des Verbrechen in seiner Abhängigkeit von dem Jollichen Temperaturwechsel, Berlin, 1882. Fevret Charles, Traité de l'Abbess, Lib Roman 7, ch. 2, No. 38. Flesch M. Untersuchungen über Verbrechergehirn, Wurzburg, 1882. Frank Wilhelm, Geschichte der Ehemaligen Reichsstadt Oppenheim am Rhein-Darmstadt, 1859. Friedman F. Verbrechen im Roman und auf der Bühne, Berlin, 1890. Friedrich Georg, Die Krankheit des Willens vom Standpunkt der Psychologie aus betrachtet, München, 1885. Galton F., Inquiries into Human Faculty and Its Development, London, 1883. Garofalo R., La Criminologie, Paris, 1888. Gierk O. Humor im Deutschen Recht, Too Awful, 1886 pp. 2325-61. Giuriati Domnico, Gli errori giudiziari diagnosi e rimedi, Milano, 1893. See especially Chapter 4. Grenis, Theodore Berende, Documents relatifs à l'histoire du pays de Vaud, p. 160. Grimm Jacob, Deutschrich Salterthumer, Too Awful, Göttingen, 1844. Grisley, Ephemerides, Tom Roman 2, pp. 153-168, ed. 1811. Guidinus Papi Decisions, Q 238. Hefter Og, Will, Athanase Gerichtsverfischung, Köln, 1822. Hottinger Joe, Heinrich, Historia Ecclesiastica Novi Testamenti, Seculum Roman 15, Pars Quarta pp. 317-21, Tigvri Zurich, 1667. Jets overhet oud Strafrecht in België, p. 89. Brussels, 1826. Lacassagne et de la criminalité chez les animaux. Revue Scientifique, January 14, 1882. Cf. Cosmos, Zeitschrift für Entwicklungslehre, 1882, pp. 264-67. La Hontan, Baron de, Voyages. Letters I, p. 79, treats of excommunication of turtle doves in Canada. Lalin L. Curiosités des Traditions, Paris, 1847, pp. 429-436. Lavenderius Petrus, Tractatus de Doctoribus, Pars I Quist, 18. Lebeuf Elabé, Histoire de Paris I Roman 9, 400. Lebrun Pierre, Histoire critique des pratiques superstitieuses, Rouen 1702. Le Conservateur Suisse, Volume Roman 4, p. 43, Lausanne, 1814. Lionnois, Histoire de Nancy, Roman 2, 373-1811. Lersner, Der Stadt Frankfurt Chronica, IPP, 551-552. Proceedings against Animals in 1552 and 1574. Lesona c. Jurisprudenza Animalska. Gazeta Literaria, Turin 1887 Nos, 46 and 48. Lichtenberg G.C., Vermischt Schriften Roman 4, pp. 477-81, Göttingen 1802. Lombroso c. Il delitto negli animali, Archivio di Psichiatria. Volume Roman 2 Torino, 1881. L'uomo delinquent, 2 vols, Torino, 1889. Il delitto politico, e la rivoluzione in rapporto al diritto, etc. Torino, 1890. L'uomo di genio, Torino, 1888. Der Verbrecher in Anthropologischer, Arslicher und juristischer Beziehung. Deutschbearbeitung von M. O. Frankel. Hamburg, 1887. Wander Charles, Les Animaux dans la Jurisprudence. Revue des Humans, 1854. Tome V, pp. 330-136. Malleolus Felix, Tractatus de Exorcismus. Mangin Arthur, Elham et Labert, Paris, 1872. Manel Bernards, Nova Florsta o Silva de varios apothegmas, e ditos sententios espirituis e moris. 5 tome. Lisboa, 1706-1747. Marchicio Michel, Gatto and Seti Nasivi pp. 63 SQQ. Turin, 1834. Maudsley Henry, Physiology and Pathology of Mind. London, 1868. Mémoires de la Société des Antiquaires de Normandie. Tuy Seri, Volume Roman 9, Volume Roman 19. De la Collection. Paris, 1851. Mainabrea, Leon. De l'origine de la forme et de l'esprit des jugements rendus au Moyen Age contre les animaux. Chambéry, 1846. Reprint in book form of a paper originally published in Mémoires de la Société Reale Académique de Sèvres. Tome Roman 12, 1846. Muraut, Histoire de Sardaigne. Newell William Wells, Conjuring Rats. The Journal of American Folklore, January-March, 1892. Nordoyer M.J., Nederduits Rikszoutheden. Utrecht, 1853. Nork F. Article in Schabels des Kloster Weltlich und Geistlich, etc. Volume Roman 12, pp. 942-949. Stuttgart, 1849. Opsumer, C.W., Die Dieren voor den Richter. Volksalmanak van het jaar 1862. Orano G. La criminalità nel surrelazionicale clima. Roma, 1882. Ortali Fr. Les proses d'aniaux au Moyen Age. La Tradition, Paris, 1888, pp. 77-82, based on Vernet in Thames Roman 8. Ossenbruggen, Eduard, Studien zur deutschen und schweizerischen Rechtsgeschichte. Schaffhausen, 1868. Roman 7, Die Personifizierung der Thier, pp. 130-9149. Papon, Recueil de rares notables des cours souverains de France. Liv, Roman 22, Titter 7. Paynot, Gabriel, Essai chronologique sur les mowers, etc. Les plus remarquables dans la Bourgogne, p. 68. Dijon, 1827. Pertal Antonio, Gli animali in giudizio, edi del Real Instituto Veneto, Tomo Roman 4, Sarai Roman 6. Venezia, 1886. Pirquin, Traité de la folie des animaux et de ses rapports avec celle de l'homme et les législations actuelles. Paris, 1839. Porto v. La scuola criminale positiva et il progetto de nuovo codis. Verona, 1884. Prole Louis, Le crime et la peine. Paris, 1892. This work is opposed to the theories of Lombroso and the new school of criminal anthropologists, but states their views fully and clearly. Quinones Juan de Tratado de Langostas, Madrid, 1620. A treatise on exorcisms of locusts, weevils, rats, mice, and birds. Reynaud Théophile de Monitories etc. Part 2, C12 No. 6 in his Opusc, Misc, 1665, Tom, Roman 14, p. 482. The author criticizes Chassenée. Rixius Aloysius, Resolutions 408. Rock Heinrich, Bomisch Schlesisch und Lausitzische Chroniken. Rocheflavin de la, Arerts Notables du Parlement de Toulouse, Liv, Roman 3 Titter 2. Rocher Lapierre, Gloire de l'Abbé et Valet de la Novelaise. Rosarius Hieronymus, Quod Animalia Bruta Ration Utenter Melius Homine, Amstel, 1654. Rauso de Lacum, Traité des Matières Criminelles, Part 1 ch. 2 Sect 1 Distinct, 8. Ruchat Abraham, Abrégé de l'Histoire ecclésiastique du Pays de Vaud. Sainte-Foy, Ouvres, 1778 Roman 4, 97. Sauval Histoire de Paris, Volume Roman 3, p. 387. Schleger, Wiener Skizen aus dem Mittelalter. Schmid Reinhold, Gesetze der Angelsachsen, 2nd ed., Leipzig, 1858. Seefahrt K. Hingerichtet Thier und Gespenster. Zeitschrift für Deutschkulturgeschichte, 1856, pp. 424-30. Sloat, Die Dieren in het Germansche Volksgeloof en Volksgebruik es Gravenhage, 1887. Sorel Albert, Proses Conter des Animaux et Insects suivis au Moyen Age dans la Picardie et la Valois. Campigny, 1877. Stark Hermann, Greikisch Antiquität, Volume I, 487. Testrup Kr. S. Rhines Herds Chronica, Samlinger till Jidsk History og Topography, Volume Roman 2, pp. 6264, 1711. Themis Jurisconsulti, Tome I, pp. 178-181, Tome Roman 8, Part 2, pp. 45 SQQ. Thiers des Superstitions, Volume I, 48a. Thomas Aquinas, Summa Theologiae, Volume Roman 2, Pars LXXVI, Art. 2. Thonison J. Études sur l'histoire du droit criminel, Volume Roman 2, pp. 198 SQQ. Bruxelles, 1869. Le droit pénal de la République Athénienne, pp. 256, 412 SQQ. 1875. Tobler G. Tierprozess in der Schweiz, Bern, 1893. Torning, Christianus J. De Peccatis et Ponis Brutorum, a dissertation on graduating at the University of Uppsala in Sweden. May 25, 1725. Van Hoffen, Die Dieren als Misdadigers vor den Richter. Eigenhard, 1884. Vero Leonardo, De Facino Libri 13, etc. Venet, 1599. Vernet, Letter sur les Proses Fates aux Animaux, Thames, Volume Roman 8b, pp. 4561. Vivio Francesco, Decisions, No. 68, 1610. De Wind, Bijzonderheden uit de Geschiedenis van het strafrecht in de Nederlanden. Middelburg, 1827. Ziarola Thomas, Praxis Episcopalis, Sub Verbo Superstitio, Venet, 1599. Index. Abbot, Reverend Lyman, regards bad impulses as suggestions of evil spirits. Achan, his severe punishment by Joshua, 180. Adosio Carlo D., his besti delinquenti cited, 1-4. His list of animal prosecutions, 135 on pigs as a public nuisance in Italy, 159. Easkines cited, 172. Aeschylus, his chophoroi cited, 174. Ahura Mazda, 57, 61, 82, 176. Ehlert Jean, burned alive as a sodomite for coition with a Jewess, 153. Altiat, his poem quoted, 93. Amira, Prof. Karl von, his Theerstrafen und Theerprozess cited, 13. Anathemas only effective when formally complete, as with all incantations and excommunications, 4:36. Citations from the Bible in proof of their power, 25. Render an orchard barren and expel eels and bloodsuckers from Lake Leman, 27. Turn white bread black to punish heresy, 28. Fatal to swallows and flies which disturb religious services, 28, 29. Sold by the Pope, 30. Hurled against noxious vermin, 37. Made more effective by the prompt payment of tithes, 37. Differ from excommunications, 51-54. Superseded in Protestantism by prayer and fasting and in science by Paris Green, 53. Animals prosecuted by civil and ecclesiastical courts, 2. Office of the Church in repressing articulate and rodent, 3, 5. As satellites of Satan or agents of God, 5, 6, 52-57, 67. Personification of 10, 11. Their competency as witnesses, 11. Origin of their judicial prosecution, 12. As born criminals, 14. Tendency of modern penology to efface the distinction between men, and 193. Instances of their criminal prosecution, 16, 18, 21, 37, 50, 93, 1, 24, 157, 161, 63. Methods of procedure against, 31, whether legally laity or clergy, 32. Punitive and preventive prosecution of, 33. Their consciousness of right and wrong, 35, 247. False conception of the purpose of their prosecution, 40. Can be anathematized but not excommunicated, 51. Items of expense in prosecuting, 49, 138, 141, 43. Not mere machines, 66. In folklore, 84. Worship of, 85. Imperfect lists of prosecuted, 135, 137. Burned and buried alive, 138. Put to the rack to extort confession, 139. Confiscation of valuable, 164, 189. Unclean flesh of executed, 169. Imputed criminality of, 177. Criminals as ferocious, 212. Mental and moral qualities of men, and 234. 6 categories of their criminal offenses, 235. The safety of society, the supreme law, and the judicial punishment of men, and 247-52. Anatolus, his Geoponics, 133. Angel Emile, cited, 124. Anglo-Saxon law, its retributive character, 168. Its cruel doctrine of accessories, 178. On tainted swords, 187. Angromaniash, 57, 59, 61, 82. Anthony, saint, patron of pigs, 158. Anthropologists, criminal researches of 211, 215. Aquinas, C. Thomas. Arcadius, his atrocious edict, 179. Ashes, modern and medieval use of vermifugal, 53. Augustine, saint, cited 94, 106. Oricorumpins in houses and stalls, 8. Aurelian, father, on diabolical possession, 75. Avesta, on exorcisms, 36. On good and evil creations, 57. On mad dogs, 176. Eralt Peer, his protest against animal prosecutions, 109. Aspilcueta Martin, see Dr. Navarre. Baalzebub Beelzebub, fly god, 84. His preference for black beasts, 165. Bailey Gaspard, his Traité des Monatoires cited, 52, 92-108. Basiliskeg, 10. Basilius, saint, his insect-expelling girdle, 136. Basilovich Ivan, his conception of retributive justice, 183. Bassos Cassianos prefers ratbane to adjuration, 132. Beasts sweet and stenchy, 55. Bees tainted honey of homicidal, 9. Bell banished to Siberia by the Russian government, 175. Benedict Prof. on the brain formation of criminals, 212. Bernard Claude, his idea of the physiologist, 245. Bernard Saint kills flies by cursing them, 28. Bernard's Manel, his Nova Florsta, 124. Bariat Saint Prix, his valuable researches, 2, 17, 20. List of prosecuted animals, 130-5137. Bichat, his defective cranium, 217. By Skofberger, Dr. Theobald, his curious theory of the effects of unexpiated crime on persons and property, 68. His recent brochure in defense of exorcisms, 73. Biscoff, Prof., his hobby refuted by the weight of his own brain, 218. Blackstone on Diodens, 186, 189, 192. Bloodletting as a panacea in law and medicine, 194. Blue Laws, an advance in penal legislation, 209. Bodelschwing, his Bacillus Infernalis, 90. Bohum, Jacob, his definition of magic, 127. Bayer, Nicolaus, on cohabitation with a Jewess as sodomy, 153. Bogos, homicidal beasts executed by the, 155. Bonnivard François, presides as judge in a trial of vermin, 38. Borromeo Carlo, his cruelty in punishing heresy, 208. Baugent Pierre, his amusement philosophique cited, 66-69, -86, 8890, 92. Bracton, 167 on Diodens, 186. Brain, its size not always a measure of mental capacity, 217-19. Brown, Dr. William Hand, cited, 187. Buggery, instances of this nameless crime. 147-153, Chiasse acquitted, and man condemned to death for. 150 in the Carolina punished with death by fire. 151 in the Mosaic Law. 152, sexual intercourse with a Jewess regarded as. 153. Bull, executed for murder, 161. Calvin, his conception of God, 59. Canute King, 178. Carolina, its severe penalties, 182. Karpsov, Benedict on sodomy, 151. Cattle bewitched by bad air, 8. Cervantes, 167. Character, factors in the formation of, 219. Responsibility for 239, 243. Charcot, Doctor, on the curative power of faith, 80, 225. Chassenée, Bartholomew, his Concilia, 2, 2123. Distinguished as a defender of prosecuted rats, 18 equal rights of rats and Waldenses recognized by, 20. His erudition, 24. His absurd deductions, 26. Regards animals as laity in the eye of the law, 32. Chinese, recent beheading of idols for murder, 174. Church, its treatment of noxious insects as incarnations of Satan and as agents of God, 36. Capital punishment never inflicted by, 31. Its power to stay the ravages of vermin unquestioned, 50. Cicero, cited, 22-101. His approval of atrocious penalties, 178. Cock burned at the stake for laying eggs, 10, 11, 162. Nature and origin of its supposed eggs, 163-5. Cockatrice, 12, 163. Coleridge, his definition of madman, 228. Corpses prosecuted and executed, 110, 198, 199. Cannot inherit, 110. Corruption of blood, in theology and law, 181. Kersel Samuel, his view of prisons, 212. Cows executed for homicide, 169. Cranks, execution of, 249-51. Cretella, 17. Cretans, their brains not always abnormal, 219. Sentenced to death, 251. Criminality, examples of imputed, 177-185. Ancient and medieval conceptions of, 200. Punished for the safety of society, 211, 248, compared to vitriol, 212. Supposed physical indices of, 213-17. Casual and constitutional, 214-23. Atavism, the source of, 212, 215. The result of hypnotism, 223-25, due to many uncontrollable conditions, 230. Motives underlying animal, 235. Animals conscious of, 247. Contagiousness of, 252, 256. Crolanza, his record of the prosecution of caterpillars, 122. Crocier's vermifugal efficacy of 30. Sibylle invoked against vermin, 133. Damhouder Jacobus, picture of animal crimes in his Rerum Criminalium Praxis, 16. Citations from this work, 109, 146, regards sexual intercourse with Jews, Turks, and Saracens as sodomy. Dastur's Parsi, Zarathustra's teachings degraded by the 59. Demosthenes, cited, 172. Dioden's Nature of 186-190, 192, abolished in England under Queen Victoria, 192. Devils, their damage to landed property, 7, multiplied by the spread of Christianity, 1380, destined to eternal torments after the Last Judgment, 6870, incarnate in every babe, 70 maladies produced by, 72, modern inventions the devices of, 229. Didymos his Geoponics, 133. Dmitri, Prince, Bel banished to Siberia for rejoicing over his assassination, 175. Dogs, Trial and Execution of Mad, 176. Crucified in Rome for imputed crime, 177. Doppler, Jacob on sodomy, 152 on Lex Talionis, 182 on vampires, 197. Dove, symbol of the Holy Ghost, 57. Draco Draken, his law-punishing weapons, 172. Dreyfus, his prosecution instigated by a sensational novel, 253-55. Ducal Pierre, prosecutor of weevils, 38. Dumas, his Count of Monte Cristo cited, 240. Duret Jean, his treatise on pains and penalties, 108. Ecclesiastical Tribunal, N. rejects the Mosaic Law and discusses crime from a psychiatrical point of view, 170. Eldrad Saint, expels serpents, 50. Electricity, execution by, 210. Elk as demon, 90. Erechtheus, punishment of deadly weapons, 172. Aaron appeasing the, 174. Escheat in Scotch law, 189. Eusebius describes hell as very cold, 105. Eustace Saint, 56. Evolution, dogma of original sin supplanted by the doctrine of, 232. Excommunications, pronounced against insects by the Church, 3, sold at Rome, 30. Properly speaking, animals not subject to 51, 100 comical survivals of 128. See anathemas. Exorcisms, their efficiency recognized by Heidelberg professors, 27, applied as plasters, 72, superseded by conjurations among Protestants, 125, by Mohammedans, 137. Falcon Pierre, defender of weevils, 38. Philo de se, a sort of treason, 190, see suicide. Fuchter Sleben, Baron von, records cases of morbid imitation, 253. Field mice, conjuration of, 133. Flesh of executed animals tainted, 169. Flies as demons, 2886. Florian, saint, the protector of houses from fire, 136. Flyflaps papal, 29. Formosus, pope, his corpse tried and condemned for usurpation, 198. Foscolo Hugo, his cranium that of an idiot, 218. Fox, diabolical nature of the 56. Frederick the Great, his penal reforms, 207. Fricker, Thuring, Doctor of Laws, Chancellor and Prosecutor of Injure, 116. Gadfly's Episcopal Rescript against, 124. Galton on Heredity, 239. Gambetta, his small and abnormal brain, 217. Geese, sacred, rewarded at Rome for the vigilance of their foremothers. Genius to madness close allied, 228. Gora's recent case of conjuration recorded by, 125. Gradiolet on the brain of the Hottentot Venus, 218. Greeks, ancient, ascribed pestilence to the miasma of unexpiated murder, 174. Gregory of Tours, on bronze dormice and serpents as talismans, 132. Gracer Daniel, the efficiency of bands not supernatural, 128. Gross, his misstatement concerning the cock of Baal, 162. Guidao, deterrent effect of his execution, 250. Harpocration, Valerius cited, 172. Harrison Miss, cited, 187. Heart, symbolism of the 56. Hawks dead as protectors of hens, 252. Hemmerlein Felix, C. Malleolus. Hens crowing 10. Heredity, its predetermining influence as viewed by theologians and scientists, 232. Haman's Minhir, on responsibility for character, 243. Hierarchies, their failure in civil government, 249. Honorius, his atrocious edict, 179. Horses condemned to death for homicide, 162. Hubert Saint, 56. Hugon Saint, expels venom from serpents by excommunication, 103. Hunters among savages, their superstitious fear of killing wild animals. Hypnotism, its causal relation to crime, 223-26, as the basis of the witchcraft delusion, 225. Idols, decapitation of, 174. Injure, prosecuted and put under ban, 113-115, not in Noah's Ark, 120. Insanity, degrees of 202-03 in Italian and German law, 204-06 difficulty of defining, 226-28, in English law, 246, moral, 250, as a shelter for crime, 256. Insects, prosecution of 37, 41-49, incarnations of demons, 86. Italy, palliation of crime in, 203, 204. Jeanneret Marie, her toxicomania, 242-46. Jews in Christian legislation on a par with beasts, 152, 165. John the Lamb, his curse fatal to fish, 28. Johnson Ben, cited, 130. Jordan Father, casts out devils with lured water in 1887, 74. Jorgensen, cited, 17. Joshua, his penal cruelty, 180. King Mode, his discourse with Queen Reason, 55. Kirchenheim, Prof. Vaughan, urges reform of our penal codes, 219. Quran, on the punishment of beasts, 171. Cookies destroy homicidal trees, 171. Laws, his definition of judicial punishment, 238. Lacasagni, his 6 categories of crime, 235. Langevin, Peergills, fresco of the execution of a sow described by. Lapironi, his dissertation proving that cocks never lay eggs, 163. Laban, on hereditary criminality, 223. Leipzig, decision of the law faculty concerning a homicidal cow, 169. Leo Roman 13, his exorcism of Satan and apostate angels, 73. Letang, Louis, causal relation of his novel to the Dreyfus affair, 254. Lex Talionis, striking applications of this oldest form of penal justice, 167, inflicts horrible mutilations, 182. Lilienberg, Matthias Abel Vaughan, his record of a dog sentenced to prison. List, Prof. Vaughan, on retributive and preventive penalties, 237. Locusts expelled by exorcisms and aspergiars, 364, dispersed and destroyed by excommunication, 22, 93, 94 prosecution of 95 108, 136. Lobor Pater France Saver ascribes nervous disease to diabolical possession, 71. Lombroso on animals as born criminals, 14, opposed to trial by jury, 185 regards tattooing, dark thick hair and thin beards, as signs of criminality, 213 on atavism as the source of crime, 215 innate criminality not eradicated by education, 223 compares the capital punishment of cretins and cranks to that of animals, 251. Lucifer writhes under the water of Lourdes, 74. Lycia punished by imputation, 180. Magellus cited 86. Maledictions, see anathemas. Malleolus Felix, his theory of exorcisms endorsed by Heidelberg professors, 27 records a prosecution of Spanish flies, 110. His formula for banning serpents, 121. Mangan Arthur, cited 16, 139. Manichaeans, their doctrine of good and evil, 60. Manovrier Doctor, likens Gambetta's skull to that of a savage, 217. Mantegazza, Prof. his tormentor, 245. Manu, Institutes of, 168. Marrow on Metaphors as Facts, 216. Mather Cotton records the execution of a pious sodomite and 8 beasts, 148. Mainabrea ML 217, his theory untenable, 40. Mephistopheles, the lord of rodents and vermin, 85. Mithridates, experiments with poisons, 244. Moles, prosecution of, 111-113. Monks as landed proprietors in France, 158. Monomania, frequency of, 227. Morel Claude, defender of weevils, 38. Mornacious, his record of mad dogs sentenced to death, 176. Morselli, Prof. on the causes of suicide, 229. Mosaic law, the rejected by an ecclesiastical court, 170. Barbarity of, 167, 180. Murder, miasma of 9, 174. Weapons tainted by, 187, 190. Mutilations, in accordance with the Lex Talionis, 176, 182. Mythology, monstrosities and metamorphoses of classical, 64. In modern life, 228. Nake regards criminals as no more culpable than poisons, 212. Narenkotterline, dog sentence tua, 175. Nature, imperfection of, 61. Navarre Doctor regards fish as cacodemons, 90. Nebuchadnezzar, a satanic metamorphosis, 63. Nican, his statue punished for manslaughter committed in self-defense. Noah, God's covenant with him, required the capital punishment of beasts. Novels, morbific influence of sensational, 253. Numa Pompilius, quoted 106, his law for protecting boundary stones, 183. Origen believed in the ultimate redemption of Satan, 68. Osenbruggen Eduard, his theory of the personification of animals, 10, 17. Ovid quoted 101, 103. Oxen executed, 168, punished although innocent, 183. Pachacutes, barbarous code of this Peruvian Justinian, 179. Papal see, trial and punishment of corpses by the, 198. Pape Guy cited, 108. Paracelsus, on the magnetic power of the will, 126. Pardoning power, exercise of the, 248. Parsis their dasters, 59. Co-workers of Ahura Mazda, 61. 82. No doctrine of atonement, 63. Pasteur exterminates noxious microbes, 62. Patriotism as a perverter of justice, 185. Pausanias cited, 172. Penology, man and beast in modern, 14. 193. Medieval and modern, 15. 200, 206-10. In Italy and Germany, 203-206. Brutality of medieval, 206-09. Moral and penal responsibility, 210. Still inchoate, 15. 219-23. 257. Deterrent aims of, 211, 248, 249. Law of the survival of the fittest in, 221-23. Punitive and preventive, 237. Its relation to psychopathology, 248. Pereira Gomez, forerunner of Descartes, 66. Perjury, retaliative punishment of, 182. Perodit, Jean, defender of injure, 118. Phlebotomy, see bloodletting. Pico di Mirandola, quoted, 103. Piety, market value of 7. Pigs, see swine. Perminius, saint, his anathema of venomous reptiles, 29. Plato, his theory of creation, 59. On homicidal animals, 173. On retributive and preventive punishment, 237. Pliny, quoted, 103. Pollux Julius, quoted, 172. Potter, a pious sodomite executed, 148. Predestination in theology and science, 232-34. Prussia, barbarous punishments, 180, opposed to reform, 205. Prytanean, Prytaneum, condemned inanimate objects for crime, 172, but not corpses, 199. Pufendorf, Samuel, on contagiousness in crime, 256. Puritans, their penal enactments, 209. Pythagoras, his doctrine of transmigration, 87. Queen Reason, her discourse on animals in reply to King Mode, 56-58. Racine, his caricature of beast trials and les plaideurs, 166, 361. Ram, banished to Siberia, 175. Randolph, his allusion to rhyming rats, 130. Rat's Prosecution of 1821, 136. Friendly Letters of Advice to, 129. Irish Custom of Rhyming, 130. Raven, an Imp of Satan, 57. Renaud Delines, on Equal Rights of Waldenses and Rats, 20. Responsibility, Moral and Penal, 210. Rouge, Prof. Dr. Fr. Heinrich, denounces bishops as promoters of superstition, 14. Roro, an anti-Semitic devil cast out in 1842, 73. Rosarius, Hieronymus, describes the exposure of crucified lions and gibbeted wolves as a warning to their kind, 251, regards animals as often more rational than men, 252. Satan, his earthly sovereignty, 60, 70. The doctrine of his final redemption, 68. Schilling on the prosecution of injure, 113, 120. Schlager, cited, 176. Schleswig, its punishment of homicidal timber, 187. Schmid, Bernard, his sermon on the devastations by injure, 113, 115. Scholasticism, quiddities of 33. Schopenhauer, his theory of the will, 127. Man's responsibility for character alone, 239, 243. Schwabenspiegel, barbarity of this old German code, 178. Schwarzmeining, prosecutor of moles, 112. Schweinfurter Sawhinker, origin of the term, 147. Serpents destroyed by St. Eldrad, 51. Freed from poison by St. Hugon, 103. Shakespeare alludes to berhymed rats, 130, and a wolf on the gallows, 157. Silius Italicus, quoted 103. Simon Max on the morbid spirit of imitation, 253. Sociology, its influence on criminal jurisprudence, 238. Socrates on self-perfection, 234. Sodomy, see buggery. Soldan, cited 17. Sparrows put under ban by a Protestant parson, 128. Stephen Roman 6. Pope adjures locusts, 65. Prosecutes the corpse of his predecessor, 198. Strangled in prison, 199. Suicide, punishment of the wife and children of a, 190. Condemned as a crime and also recognized as a right, 191. 192. Due to manifold influences, 229. Superstition, fostered by bishops and Jesuits, 14. Swallows anathematized for chattering in church, 28. Swine, execution of, 16. 141-45, 149, 153-157, 161, 169. As stenchy beasts peculiarly attractive to devils, 56, 165. Gadarene, 69, 91, 165. Swords, tainted, 187. Taine, his definition of man, 214. Tard defines the mob as a mad beast, 236. Tatian, his fellow citizen punished for his offenses, 180. Tattooing not peculiar to criminals, 213. Termites prosecuted by Franciscans in Brazil and praised by their defender as more industrious than the friars, 123. Tertullian, quoted 106. Theognis, his bust punished for murder, 172. Thomas à Becket, his bones burned by Henry Roman VIII, 198. Thomas Aquinas regarded animals only as diabolical incarnations, 53-55, 101, 103. Thurnicer, his bottled scorpions and elk feared as demons, 90. Tithes, importance of the prompt payment of 37, 94, 107. Tobler G. on Animal Prosecutions in Switzerland, 1, 170. Treason, barbarously punished by Roman, Prussian, and Judaic law, 179 181. Trench, Richard Chevenix, His Justification of the Cursing of the Fig Tree, 25. Truffles, Richard, His Belief in the Exorcism at Wemding in 1891, 75. Tribunals, Proper Office of Criminal, 211, 232, 248. Trithime on Satan's Invisible Apparition, 166. Tishech executed, and his innocent daughter exiled for his crime, 179. Turler records the rejection of the Mosaic Law by the Ecclesiastical Court of Bern, 170. Vampires, Superstitions Concerning, 195-198. Vendetta in Semi-Civilized Communities, 178. Venedad quoted 63. Ventilation, Bewitched Kind the Result of Bad 8. Vermin, see Insects. Virgil quoted 26. Weevils prosecuted for damage to vineyards, 3849. Wemding, Recent Case of Diabolical Possession in, 75. Werewolves, Incarnate Ghosts, 195 Decree for their extermination, 198. Werther, Goths, Sentimentalism and Suicidism produced by, 253. Winterstetter, Georg, His Rescript Concerning Gadflies, 125. Witches in Judaic and Medieval Law, on a par with animals, 145. Rendered harmless by burning, 196. Worms, Counsel of, Its Decree Concerning Tainted Honey, 9. Zarathustra, Zoroaster, His Ethics and Its Workings, 5759. Zoopsychology, in its relation to anthropopsychology and criminology, 237. Zupetta on Partial Vitiation of Mind, 201. Richard Clay and Sons, Limited, London and Bungay. Footnotes. The name is also spelled Chassenée and Chasseneux. In the Middle Ages, and even as late as the end of the 18th century, the orthography of proper names was very uncertain. Item. A été délibéré que la ville s'y joindra, aux Paris's de cette province, qui voudront obtenir de Rome une excommunication, contre les insectes et que elle contribuera aux fries au prorata. These animals are spoken of as unvernünftig Tierlein genet Letmaus. Let might be derived from the Old German Lut, laut, schrei, in which case Letmaus would mean shrew mouse, but it is more probably from lutum, loam, mold, and signifies mole or field mouse. Field mice are exceedingly prolific rodents, and in modern as well as in medieval times have often done grievous harm to husbandry and arboriculture by consuming roots and fruits and gnawing the bark of young trees. The recklessness of hunters in exterminating foxes, hedgehogs, polecats, weasels, buzzards, crows, kites, owls, and similar beasts and birds, which are destructive of field mice, has frequently caused the latter to multiply so as to become a terrible plague. This was the case in England in 1813-14, and in Germany in 1822, and again in 1856. The first part of this treatise, consisting of 17 chapters, discusses the different kinds of monitoirs and their applications. Only the second part, describing the legal procedure, is here printed. A few early instances of excommunication and malediction, our knowledge of which is derived chiefly from hagiologies and other legendary sources, are not included in the present list, such, for example, as the cursing and burning of storks at Avignon by Saint Agricola in 666, and the expulsion of venomous reptiles from the island Reichenau in 728 by Saint Pirminius. This case is probably identical with, and an adjournment of that of 1478. Identical with the sentences covering the period of 1500-1530. In this latest record of such prosecutions, a man named Marger was killed and robbed by Scherer and his son, with the fierce and effective cooperation of their dog. The 3 murderers were tried, and the 2 men sentenced to lifelong imprisonment, but the dog, as the chief culprit, without whose complicity the crime could not have been committed, was condemned to death. In modern French, pendered means hangdog. M. Lejeune states that he can recall no other instance of its use as synonymous with burrow or hangman. Perhaps a facetious clerk may have deemed it applicable to a person whose office was in the present case that of a hangpig. Under this term are included the dean, canons, and chapter of the Cathedral of Chartres. Maietque, a cow pastured or wintered for pay. Transcriber's notes. Passages in italics are indicated by italics. Superscripted characters are indicated by superscript. End of the Project Gutenberg ebook of The Criminal Prosecution and Capital Punishment of Animals by Edmund P. Evans.